If this book exists, you're in the wrong universe. Monday, August 22nd, 8:08 p.m. Gingerbread men. Hunger at 55%. Me. I found myself back in my kitchen. Wait, no. Wrong kitchen. I was at John's place, at the table with John, Joy, and Amy, all staring at me with almost comical anticipation, as if waiting for me to spontaneously combust. Each of them had paused in the act of putting a piece of food in their mouths, holding a potato chip, a cheese ball, and an olive, respectively. I had the Zarkrax book in my hands. I dropped it and bolted upright, knocking my chair over in the process. Amy said, "What?" I looked around. "What time is it? And, what day?" John said, "Why, it's Christmas Day." "It's a little after 8, Monday night," said Amy. "You just had skin contact with the sauce, and we're all here waiting to see if you vanish into another layer of space-time or something." "When was that?" "Just seconds ago. What was it from your point of view? Did anything happen?" John said, "Were you greeted with visions of how your miserly ways have affected others?" Amy pulled out her phone, like she was going to record me recounting my experience, just as she had last time around. I waved her off and stood, running to the stairs. I made it to John's bedroom, and there was the ragged hole in the wall, opening to Joy's closet, just where it should be. Amy came up the stairs behind me, probably thinking I'd run up here to vomit in the bathroom again. From downstairs, I heard John say, "He's going to come back with the biggest goose you've ever seen." Amy asked, "What happened?" "I need to think. Give me a minute." I went back down and grabbed a natty light from John's fridge. Joy seemed mildly alarmed. John was just waiting patiently. He'd been through this. Knew it took a bit to get your footing after coming down. Amy followed me into the kitchen and started to ask a question, but I interrupted. "Just give me a second to gather myself. Please." I took a drink. I glanced around the room, trying to orient myself in space and time, maybe hoping to stop short before the depression set in. Okay, so I just flashed back to last time. The last time we did this. I mean, I lived the entire thing while I was on the sauce. The whole previous attempt before the reset, through to the end. Everybody wound up dead, and I know exactly what happened and exactly how we messed it up. Listen and don't interrupt. We'd gone out to the front porch so John could smoke. I was sitting on the swing with Joy. Amy was pacing around, thinking. John said, "It's just like my dream. The ritual is to summon all the darkness into one place so that I can fuck a hole in the space-time continuum." Amy said, "That guy's trick with resetting everything. He can't do that this time, right?" I said, "I guess not. The time captain is dead in this timeline." "Because he was afraid of a mouse?" "I think it was just annoying him, but he lost track of where he was standing when he phased in." "We think that's just a coincidence, that a mouse happened to be there." "Who knows? Maybe the mouse was working for Zarkrax. Either way, yeah, I think this is our last chance." "And there's a secret space weapon positioned above the town that's going to destroy us just after midnight, no matter what we do. It's kind of crazy to think that isn't the headline here." To be honest, I'm mainly impressed that the government built it and that it actually works. Looked like it was going to land right on our heads. We should find the guy who designed it and tell him he did a good job. John said, "The Doomsday Satellite thing has been a conspiracy theory forever. The story is that the government approved the project after 9/11 as a secret black budget thing. Then there's another even conspiracy-er theory that there's an even more secret blacker budget for the satellite, which is to take out unnatural apocalyptic threats if they should turn up. Supposedly, the brass in charge at the deepest levels has this town pinned on a map." Amy said, "That means even if we succeed this time, we have no idea how to stop it from firing. Who orders the strike? What's the protocol? At what point in the process is it too late?" I said, "You're saying we should just clear out, let the thing blow up the town, then take care of Bass after." What? No. Of course. I just wanted to, make sure. Joey asked, what was I doing in the last attempt? I didn't see you. I don't think you came along to the last part at the end. Didn't you say you have to work tonight? I wouldn't skip this for work. Then, I don't know. It doesn't. You think I was shot by the SWAT team? We should be talking about that. John asked, would that even kill you? You mean the way those cigarettes are going to kill your clown ass? Maybe you hunt back to drive the getaway vehicle. Well, I'm not doing that this time. I'm coming with you. Nobody said you couldn't. Now, I said, there's something else. I stood up, off the swing. You guys might want to sit down for this. John took the swing next to Joy. Amy sat on the rail of the porch. She said, what? I don't know how to approach this. It's about John. Joy said, John is secretly Bass. From the future? No. John is Zarkrax. No, just let me... John is secretly you. From the future. Stop. The time captain said that in all the previous attempts, that there are some constants that play out the same way. I think, well, I guess it's like in a game of pool. You can break the balls in infinite ways, but the pockets are always in the same spot, right? And one of the constants, one of the things that happens every time, no matter what, I trailed off. I honestly didn't know how to deliver the news. John said, dude, you refusing to say it is way worse than anything you could possibly say right now. You never make it. Whether you die at the end or at some other point, you never make it to the finish line tonight. And he seemed pretty sure that that part is written in stone, for whatever stupid cosmic reason. John nodded. Yeah, that makes sense. By all rights, I should have died 30 or 40 times by now. You're just going to hear that news and roll with it. I mean, obviously I'm not going to die this time. Or maybe I will. He shrugged. I would get my affairs in order, but that shit is already ordered. I try to live in such a way that my every encounter with a person would also serve as a pretty sweet ending if it's the last. Joy said, what did he say about me? Do I make it? I said, it didn't come up. I honestly don't even think you're supposed to be here. Before Joy could reply, I said, but I think that's part of it. We're asking what we can do different from all the other attempts. But he said we're refining the process, getting closer each time. And I think part of it is just us. This particular version of us. Fancy Me didn't know Joy, and in his life, not even fond memories of John remained. And I'm different. That version of me, most versions aren't, you know, the way I am. This version of us, being alive at the very end, that's rare. And we have to take advantage of it. Last time we tried to talk Bass out of it, convince him the world was worth saving, but that's what Amy would always do. And my way doesn't work either. I think the time captain is wrong. We're never going to kill Sebastian if the military's $1 trillion space cannon can't do it. I turned to John and Joy on the swing. So, you two, give me a plan that only you could have come up with. Joy said, how about we all forget about it and just go get ice cream? Surely we've never done that. John nodded, as if taking that suggestion under advisement. Then said, it still has to start with finding Bass, right? Last time we tried to meet him at the Turditorium, but that's too late in the process. He'd already have all his Zarkrax buddies around him. No way he could back out with his whole squad watching. Once they've all been shot by the SWAT cops, then there's definitely no way. Quitting means they'd have died for nothing. That means you have to catch him before all that. Somewhere that it's just him and Gracie. So where are they? Amy said, it's not in the book. No, it wouldn't be. This isn't part of the ritual. This is a big brother and his baby sister. They have to be someplace out of sight, but also where he could keep Gracie calm. I bet that cancels out all the many creepy abandoned buildings around here. John dropped his cigarette on the porch and crushed it under his shoe, thinking. But it's more than that, right? He continued. On some level, he knows this could be their last night on Earth. that maybe none of this works and they'll just get shot down by the police. What would you do if you were him in that situation? You'd want to make her as happy as possible. Amy said, I'm coming up empty, because I wouldn't do any of it. I said, maybe he'd try to knock Gracie out with cold medicine or something, get her to sleep through it. No, said John impatiently. We were all wrong about the skinning thing. Gracie is the last person he'd have picked for that. He loves her. She may be the only person he loves. He'd want tonight to be special, like they have to eat at some point. What would he get her for her possible last meal on Earth? Probably her favorite, right? Amy glanced at Joy, looked like she was getting an idea, then went to work on her phone. She said, Ice cream. Gracie had a birthday last November. They took her to Chili Whip for a banana split. She looks happy in the pics on Facebook. And hey, look at that. They took her there again in April, after she went to the dentist. Bass was there both times, so he knows. John said, That's the call then. Either they've been there already, or they're about to be there. I'm sure of it. He wouldn't let his little sister die without ice cream. Let's pack up the van. Joy said, In other words, we're all going to get ice cream cones, which is exactly what I suggested 1 minute ago. I think I should be in charge. I said, We're not getting ice cream. We're staking out Chili Whip for a wizard ambush. Oh, I'm getting a waffle cone one way or another. I don't care what you guys do. We sat in the van across the street from the orange Chili Whip building, all of us licking ice cream cones. John had asked the girl at the drive-thru if she'd seen Bass, but she said she hadn't. She hadn't needed a photo. She knew him from school. So we were waiting, knowing that we, at most, would have another 30 minutes or so because that's when the place closed. The main problem was we didn't know what vehicle Bass would be in, if he showed at all. The motorcycle would be too recognizable, and you couldn't really transport ice cream on one. There, said Amy. She's signaling. Look. The girl at the drive-thru window was waving to us and pointing. A blue Honda Civic was pulling out, Bass at the wheel. He disguised himself as best he could, covering his head with a jacket hood and sunglasses, Unabomber style. I asked, You going to pull up and block him in the parking lot? John shook his head. No, we don't want a wizard battle at Chili Whip. We'll follow him back to his lair. I hated this idea, since our last attempt to follow Bass had ended in disaster. There was virtually no traffic at this hour, so the issue wasn't losing him, but the opposite. We'd be extremely obvious if we followed him for more than a couple of turns. John hung way back, more than a block, and immediately 2 cars got between us. I felt like we'd already blown our last chance. But then, after multiple instances of us almost losing sight of the blue Civic, I saw where we were heading and said, You've got to be shitting me. Bass was pulling into the Coral Rock Motel, which was approximately 30 feet from my own apartment. I assume Bass didn't know that and only picked it because it was one of the joints in town that didn't ask questions. We noted the room he entered. Then we just parked the van at my place. Amy said, Well, does anyone need anything from the apartment? I said to John, You guys are in charge. What's the plan? We wait. For what? For Gracie to finish her ice cream. Give it like 15 minutes. Then we go. And do what when we go? Whatever pops into our heads. When the time came, we walked over, Joy still finishing her ice cream. She was one of those people who ate at an infuriating pace, and went right up to the door of Bass's room. John knocked and said, Room service. Bass opened the door an inch to peek out, and John shouldered his way in. Gracie was sitting on the bed. She was startled by our arrival, but not shocked, like she'd been expecting someone, but just hadn't been sure who. Bass put his hands in front of him, ready for a fight. His expression said this was the first true curveball he'd been thrown since this whole thing began. Don't make me hurt you in front of her, growled Bass. John said, We haven't called the cops. We aren't here to fight you, but I have something to say that you're going to want to hear. It's 3 words. Will you listen to 3 words? Bass didn't respond. John reached out, put a hand on Bass's shoulder, and, and a tender voice whispered, "I have weed." Bass, John, and I retired to my apartment while Gracie, Amy, and Joy stayed in the motel room. We hadn't intended to split it up by gender like that, but Gracie couldn't be around the weed smoke, and somebody needed to watch her. When I asked Joy if she wanted to join us, she said she didn't want to get grease paint on her new shirt. I thought Gracie would protest, but she seemed oddly relieved, even while being separated from her big brother protector. As for why Bass agreed to go with us, I hadn't a clue. He just seemed curious, I guess, in that way teenagers are, enticed by adventure, but nervous about breaking the rules. John and Bass took the sofa. I claimed the big shitty chair next to the window. We asked Bass if it was his first time, and he responded that he preferred to smoke because edibles and vapes made him paranoid. So we took that as a no. We turned on a marathon of the Fairly Odd Parents, grabbed some cans of Fight Piss, and John booked us 3 seats on Reefer Airlines. We sat there watching the TV for some amount of time that didn't matter. Nobody said anything. I actually couldn't think of anything to say. I'd kind of lost interest in the whole affair, to be honest. Finally, Bass said, "You ever notice that if you barely watch a show, like if you only stumble across it now and then, it's always the same episode? Or even like the same part of the same episode?" I didn't answer. Then I laughed, because that was hilarious, if you think about it. Somebody just watching a TV show, like the 3 of us, just sitting here, watching a cartoon in the cartoon watching room. I thought about how it's weird that we have different rooms for doing different things, and how the fancier your house is, the more rooms and walls it has. I wondered who invented walls, and what he was ashamed of. Probably began with a guy hanging curtains up around his corner of the tent like, "I don't want you to see what I'm doing over here." Soon, everything was walls and shame, in our houses, in our minds. The guy was probably jerking off. What, like he's the only one? Now everybody else is ashamed to do it because walls and shame isolate us, make us think we're unique in our vices. Thanks, wall guy. We heard the first splatters of rain outside. We all sat and listened to the drops flicking the windows. After a while, a few minutes or a few hours, or maybe just a few minutes, or maybe a few hours, Bass said, "Maybe that rain will cool it off." John coughed and said, "It usually just makes it sticky." "I swear, you get the worst of all weather here. It's humid like the South. Winters may not be as cold as up north, but what you get here is worse. The ice storms and the snow that turns to slush, but then somehow sticks around for like a month after. Did you see that tornado that came through back in April or May or whenever it was? It got close enough to our house that we could see the clouds turning in the sky, like something out of a movie." John said, "You watch the Channel 5 weather guy when they go live with that storm warning stuff? I swear he gets horny. How can you guys stand to live here?" I said, "Weed and other things. Gotta build soft layers between yourself and reality, or else the sharp edges will just shred you." "I don't know how you don't just blow your brains out." You don't think the thoughts occurred to me? But the more I thought about it, the more it was just another empty promise. End it all. It doesn't end anything. Everyone who loves you is sad, and the ones who hate you are happy. Just makes the situation worse. That's the first thing you find out when you get old. All the easy exits are just fake doors painted on brick, like in those old Roadrunner cartoons. Do kids still watch those? "When we first got here, and we drove through the real bad neighborhood by the population sign, Gracie started crying so hard she threw up." Yeah, that happens a lot. John used to live in that neighborhood, by the way. The big blue building, next to the power station. John said, "I actually had a lot of good times there. Don't let Dave steer you wrong. We had a lot of good times there, too. For some reason, only the bad sticks in his memory." Bass inhaled, and then, through a cloud, said, "My dad is an asshole." John asked, "For moving you here, or just in general?" Bass thought about it. He had a look like he'd been presented a sandwich so big and complicated that he wasn't sure where the first bite should come from. "Silva, that was my sister. She always got a ton of attention. She was girly, you know. She wanted to wear makeup and earrings from the time she was like 8 years old. She always looked older, I guess. Dressed older, you know? I used to give her shit about it. How she was still my gross, smelly sister who never flushes the toilet, but she's acting like a fashion model. She would get catcalled by guys when she was 11. Guess they thought she was older, all the makeup and all that. Or maybe they were just creeps. You never know. Dad, he got real weird about it, though. He was always yelling at her about it, dragging her into the bathroom to wipe the makeup off, telling her she was dressing like a slut. She went to a party a while back, just a little kid party for all those 8th graders. There were grown-ups there, but Dad saw pics she was posting of it online, and I guess he didn't like her outfit. It was nothing the other kids weren't wearing, shorts and like a tank top or something, but he drives there and drags her out of the party by her hair. A little while later, in the middle of the night, she gets kidnapped." Bass stopped talking, and it took several seconds for those last words to soak into my brain. I said, "Did you say kidnapped? By who?" "They came in a black van in the middle of the night, woke Sil up, told her to get dressed, and when she tried to fight them, she put her in cuffs, those plastic ones. She thought she was gonna die, or gonna get raped, who knows what. But it turned out the kidnappers worked for this troubled teen rehab camp thing. Dad had hired them, said Silva was out of control, said she was a degenerate. He uses that word all the time. Everything is degeneracy. All the girls are turning into whores. I got in Dad's face about it, about having Sil taken away. He yells that if they don't save her now, that she's as good as dead. That he's not going to have everyone thinking he raised a disease-ridden slut. Said he'd rather she was dead. Sil comes back from the camp 2 months later, and she's different. She won't talk about it. And Dad, he just keeps getting madder and madder over time. I guess she got into some trouble at the camp. She sneaked off with a boy, and Dad just wouldn't let it go. He took the door off Sil's bedroom, told her she couldn't close the bathroom door when she went in, like he thought she was playing with herself or something. I don't know what he thought. I mean, every dude I know is going wild on his meat like it's an Olympic event, but if a girl does it, it's the end of the world? Bass just shook his head. I came up with a bunch of comforting things to say, but none of them left my mouth. John said, "What a fucking lunatic." She lost weight. She stopped bathing. One time, we were all eating at the dinner table, and Dad has one of his work friends over. Dad starts accusing Silva of having trimmed her pubes. Right there at the table. He asks her what corner she plans on working when she moves out, which N-word is going to pimp her out. Only he didn't say N-word, obviously. One day, not too long after that, Dad says he's going to start checking her from time to time to make sure she's still a virgin. He'll do exams. So, a little more than a year ago, that summer, we go on vacation to Mexico City. Dad is doing an appearance there or something, and they've got places you can go ziplining, that kind of thing. I thought it'd be too hot, but it was nice. I guess the altitude keeps it cool. We visit one of those pyramids they've got. Dad and Silva say they want to climb it. There's like 500 stairs going up, but Gracie didn't want to. So me and Mom went and got popsicles instead. Payetas, that's what they call them. And we're in line for them when there's a bunch of yells and screams from somewhere. We find out Sil has fallen. There's this big part of the pyramid that slopes straight down. Then there's a landing at the bottom, and she just hit that head first. And Dad, he says she did it on purpose. jumped the rails around the steps and ran over to that ledge, threw herself off it. I wanted to ask Bass why he didn't just tell us this from the start, but I tried to think back to when he'd even have a chance to. John said, "Fuck, man. I can't imagine. Jesus." Bass inhaled, coughed, then said, "I can't prove this, but Dad did it. I know he did it. I could see it in his face. He pushed her, or threw her off, or something. I swear, he had tried to get her to do it herself before that. Tried to put the idea in her head. Kept talking about how he'd rather she'd be dead than whatever she was doing wrong that day. He started using this antique razor. Not like the straight razor, but like an old double-edged razor where you insert the full blades into it. And he left the package of blades right there on the vanity, in the bathroom where she took baths, like he was dropping a hint. But like I said, I can't prove it. So anyway, after she dies, Dad finds in Syl's Instagram a couple of comments from girls at school making fun of her. And these are from months earlier. And Dad goes out in public and says the suicide was due to cyberbullying. Like these couple of comments would have been enough. He does all these interviews in the paper and all that, using Sylva as this prop to talk about how he cares about kids' mental health and the damage social media is doing, and how he doesn't want any more girls to suffer like her, pushing his books and seminars the whole time. Like, I don't know, man. It was like he sacrificed her for a career boost. Bass inhaled. Exhaled. I told all this to Mom. She slapped me in the face. I told the cops. Filed a report and everything. Hell, even if I can't prove anything about her death, why is it legal to pay somebody to kidnap your kid? Why doesn't any of that stuff Dad was doing count as child abuse? Somebody tell my parents, and the next thing I know, I'm talking to a therapist about my paranoia. I tell her everything. Tell her about Dad's razors. I even look up other complaints about that behavior camp or whatever they call it. It costs over $100,000. I printed out articles and gave them to her and said we've got to do something because Dad's going to start in on my other sister next. John said, "Is your dad sick? Like in the head? He sounds like he needs a straitjacket at the minimum." Bass waved him off. His parents were weirdos, were hippies or something. I don't know. Maybe they messed him up. But you still don't get it. Nobody gets it. The problem isn't just him. The problem is everything and everybody. Look at all who had a chance to step in. All the government people. All the friends and coworkers and neighbors who saw what was going on. This went on for years. Everybody saw what he was like, and nobody gave a fuck. He's this famous guru or whatever. He's got fans. And he's this big bully of a dude. Everybody's scared of him. The teachers at school are scared of him. The cops are scared of him. So if you want to get justice for Sylva, where does it stop? Do you go all the way back to Grandma and Grandpa for messing up Dad when he was a kid? To whoever it was that messed them up? To all the people who didn't stop whatever happened to them? There is no answer. The whole thing is rotten. All the way down. We didn't reply. "One day," he said, "I come home from swim practice, and Dad says we're moving immediately, before the school year starts. I can't even go back and say goodbye to anybody. My friends, my girlfriend, our other family, we all just left it behind and came here. He says that degeneracy has taken over California. We have to head east, to save Gracie, to save her from what happened to Sylva, as if he wasn't what happened to her. We moved to the worst place in the world. I swear, he picked this town on purpose. We move here. Then early this year, just like I said, Dad starts getting on Gracie. We go out to that pool in the park, and she's wearing this little girl's one-piece bathing suit with Princess Bubblegum or something all over it, and he's like, when you're out of the water, you gotta wrap yourself in a towel. He tells her all the men at the pool are staring at her ass, that they're all going to jerk off to her later, that she's a piece of meat among wolves. And Mom is just sitting there, in her hat and sunglasses, looking at Pinterest on her phone, And she'd maybe mutter something about not ruining the mood, but that's it. And I think, what can I even do? Take Gracie and just leave in the night? Then what? I got no money. So I'm just gonna sit here and watch this happen? Watch him break her? Just like he broke Syl? I said, I wasn't even there, and this is making me physically sick just hearing about it. Dude, if you'd met Syl, you'd feel 1,000 times worse. She was the coolest fucking person I ever met. She was the middle kid, but she was the oldest, if you know what I mean. She'd give me advice about how to dress, how to talk to girls. She'd get on my ass if I was being an idiot. She used to call me Crab, when I was being dumb, I mean. Everybody loved her. Everybody wanted to be her friend. There was like this light she had, you know? Like she lit up whatever space she was in. Then the world just came and snuffed it out. He wiped his eyes. Man, the last time I saw her, he said, I yelled at her at the hotel in Mexico City. She'd spilled cranberry juice on my new white shoes. I called her a bitch. That's the last thing she ever heard from me. Forever. John and I stayed silent. There was nothing to say. Rain danced on the windows. Soon, said Bass, I get a visit from somebody in the night. Like maybe it was a dream and maybe it wasn't. An old man. He says, I brought you here, to this town. I arranged this. He said this world is all a prison and he can get me out. Me and Gracie and the other people worth saving. And from that point on, every single thing that old man said came true. Every word, every prediction. Until... I said, until? Until you dickheads came along. More silence. Finally, I said, are you old enough to have seen that Johnny Depp movie about the guy who has scissors for hands? I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, I feel like that all the time. Like, whatever I try to fix, I'm just going to stab it a lot. I want to help you. I want to make the pain better. But everything we do just breaks it worse. I'm sorry about that. I really am. We got played. I thought I knew what was going on, but I didn't. You've opened my eyes. I get why you're doing what you're doing. I got up and went to the kitchen, looking for something to eat. I found some Nutter Butter cookies. They were a little bit stale, but they were fine. I said, when I was your age, I used to lull myself to sleep at night, imagining myself shooting up my high school. I had a list of who I'd kill first. Not just students, either. My adoptive parents didn't have guns in the house, so I researched how to make pipe bombs instead. And you want to know the best part? The reason I didn't go through with it isn't because I had some epiphany. Nobody intervened and told me I mattered, that I was loved, that I had too much to live for. I was just a coward. Too afraid. That's it. That's the only reason I'm here today. So I've got to say, part of what I'm feeling right now is envy. Nutter Butter? He reached for one, and I just gave him the package. I said, what sucks the most is that it shouldn't be you and me and John talking here. It should be Silva. It should be her story. But on top of everything else, death robs you of a voice. You know, one of the most common requests we get but never, ever take is people wanting to talk to their dead kids or wives or friends. We can't do that. And as far as I know, nobody can. The dead, if their spirits are powerful enough or their will is strong enough, they can try to get messages through, but it's hard to hear. And even harder for me to hear because I'm a dumbass. So I didn't hear what I was being told over and over these last few days. I sat down on the floor next to the sofa. I reached over and took one of the cookies from the package on Bass's lap. Bass said, those are the best cookies I've ever had. Can I ask you a question? Asked John. Why did you agree to come over here and smoke weed with us? Bass said, the mouse. then didn't say anything else for a little bit, like he intended to leave it at that. I didn't prompt him. Finally, he continued. When I got back with the ice cream, Gracie swore her missing mouse, Penelope, had turned up in the hotel. Swore it was the same mouse. Said it came right up to her on the bed. I didn't tell her it was silly, even though I thought it was. How in the hell's a mouse gonna get across town like that and show up in that exact room? It's not like they're smart. But while we were sitting on the bed, after we'd finished our ice cream, it ran right out from under the bed. It ran right to the door, slipped under it. Then there came a knock, and it was you guys. I don't know. It's like a sign or something. He shrugged. I don't know why I did it. I said, when your mom hired us, the thing that pushed her over the edge was she said the whole family was having bad dreams, where they were running from this darkness that was swallowing up everyone they knew. Amy had that dream too. You said that the man you spoke to told you that he arranged for you to move here, but then those dreams, they made it so that John and me and Amy would get involved, so that we would wind up right here, in this room, throwing a wrench in the plan. Because those dreams, they were of the future you're about to create, and the one putting those dreams into our heads wanted us to try to stop it. You make Silva sound like an amazing person, but what I've seen her do, what she was able to pull off from the other side, goddamn, she must have shined brighter than a star. Bass bolted to his feet. The cookies went flying. You don't fucking know what's going on. You don't know anything. John said, Hey, man, we don't necessarily disagree with that second part. I mean, look around. He gestured to the general state of the apartment. But the reason it had to be us is that the three of us understand something that most people don't. The devil is real, but he doesn't turn up in a red suit with hooves. You have to imagine him like a disease that you get. You pass it on and you don't even know it. Educated people don't call it the devil. They call it trauma. It rewires your brain and tries to spread itself down to the next generation and the one after that. The pain rolling down through time. The old man talking to you in your dreams. I think you know that he's just you. The man you can wind up being if you go down this path. All that about the end of the world? The best and worst news you're going to hear all day is this. There's no such thing. It's another one of Dave's fake painted-on exits. He tried to end it, and instead of release, it's just waves of trauma. The devil wins. You hate your dad, and you should. He poured all his sickness into you. But if you want to fight him, the way you do it is by making sure you don't pass on the trauma. That's how you kill the devil. The only way. Bass had his hand over his eyes. I didn't know if he was crying or just trying to block out the world. The rain came harder now, rattling across the landing outside. I said, You know, on some level that we're right. That Silver wouldn't have wanted this. She wouldn't want you to become that old man. Bass punched me in the face. From the floor, I heard the door slam and footsteps bang down the stairs. Amy. Joy was painting Gracie's nails, an act that Gracie was receiving with the mesmerized wonder of a child who's just been told she's a secret princess who has been accepted to wizarding school. Joy said, Now, if you learn to do this yourself, you'll save hundreds and hundreds of dollars over having to get them done at a nail place. Then you'll probably just go to the nail place anyway. Contrary to what grown-ups will tell you, sometimes you appreciate things more when others do it for you. Amy was at the window, watching the rain pummel the cars in the parking lot. She muttered, I sure hope this rain keeps up. Without looking away from her nails, Gracie asked, Why? So it won't come down. Would you stop? God. Joy said, Hold still. Bass burst in the door, so wet that he looked like he'd once again teleported in from the town pool. His face was flush with rage. He moved toward Gracie and said, We have to go. Joy said, calmly, One more finger, then we're done. We're done now. He took Gracie gently by the arm. She stood. I want to go to Japan. What? I want to go to Japan. Amy showed me pictures. Can we go? No, I don't know. Not right now. Come on. I know we can't go right now, but later. Maybe at Christmas? Amy says they all eat fried chicken on Christmas over there. Bass led her to the door. Amy went to intercept, but didn't put her body in the way. She wouldn't win a physical confrontation with Bass, even if he couldn't bend reality. Wait, where are you going? He opened the door and faced her. Before he could speak, sirens emerged from the distance, wailing under the sizzle of the rainfall. Bass said, They're coming here. I'd get away if I was you, but I'm not you, so I don't give a shit. He led Gracie out into the rain. They hustled over to their little car and pulled away. Amy had no way to give chase, so she instead ran across the parking lot to her apartment to find David and John descending the stairs. What happened? Not sure, said David. I thought we made a breakthrough. Maybe we did, but I really couldn't read his reaction. How did he react? Punched me in the jaw. John watched Bass's car head down the street, then turn out of view. You think he's heading toward the sewer plant? David said, Don't know, but that's where we're going. Me. Joy was driving the van because John and I were both too high. She had awarded Amy the passenger seat, and John and I had to sit in the back among the weapons, guitars, and dolls. The rain had ended, but had left behind so much humidity that Joy was forced to run the wipers anyway. Before either of us had a chance to tell Amy what we'd gotten out of Bass, she said, The kids can't go back to that man. Dalton, their father. John said, I know. I said, I don't disagree, but how do you propose we stop that? The authorities wouldn't even listen to Bass. Why would they listen to our crazy asses? Amy, in a tone I've never heard before, said, I don't know. We'll figure it out. A police car whooshed past us in the opposite direction, sirens howling. John's scanner suggested police had gone into manhunt mode over the missing child that, according to rumor, was about to be the subject of a ritual sacrifice. But they were, at the moment, heading back toward the motel we just left. I was briefly encouraged by the little bit of a head start we had on them. Then, a few minutes later, Amy said, What did you bring to get through the fence? And got only awkward silence as an answer. I could see it in the distance, a tall, serious fence topped with razor wire. It made perfect sense. You don't want a terrorist or disgruntled employee dumping toxins in the water. Plus, I remembered it from last time, but this still stopped our plan in its tracks. Joy turned down the access road and said, Seriously, nobody has ideas? I said, If I ask you if you have some special ability to slip through fencing unnoticed, are you going to actually answer, or are you going to get offended and start calling us clowns? I don't know. Ask me. Forget it. You could try driving through it in a tiny car with 20 of your friends. Amy pointed at the windshield. Who's that? Joy skidded to a stop. Standing in the middle of the road outside the fence of the wastewater treatment plant was Sebastian Galvatron. Gracie was over by the fence and peering in, like she was fascinated by the look behind the scenes of her bathroom stuff. Their blue Civic was parked on the shoulder farther down, in the shadows of a dead street lamp that I vaguely remembered marked an important spot in the perimeter. We all got out, and at the sight of me, Gracie said, Joy told me you can make balloon animals. Can you make me a bird? I said, Don't have any balloons. To Bass, I said, What's the plan, Chief? I'm fucked. That's all. It's like one of those janky old PC games where you can accidentally save in a no-win situation. You're in the arena with some big dragon or whatever, but you're out of health and bullets and you can't leave. All you can do is die, over and over. John said, Life isn't a game. In some ways it's worse, and some ways it's better. Sometimes you get into a situation where you have to eat shit no matter what. But if you look close, you'll see some shit isn't quite as bad. Or maybe there's not quite as much of it. Then one day you wake up and realize that a lot of those no-win situations only seemed like that in the moment. Amy said, "In situations like this, it helps to work through your bad options. Figure out which ones you want to muddle through, okay? Now, we can make this really complicated, but I think you have one primary concern here, and she's standing over by that fence." Bass shot a glance over at Gracie. "Yeah, that's right." I noticed Joy had joined the girl over by the fence, and I could faintly hear the two of them trading toilet anecdotes. "So here's the choices," said Amy, "and tell me if I'm wrong. Choice 1, you load Gracie into your car, and you go try to start a new life somewhere. Now, I say that's the kind of thing you could do 50 years ago, before cameras and credit cards and social media, but today all that happens is you get caught the first time you try to buy gas or go to an ATM. Yeah, like I said, we're fucked." Choice 2, you go in there and tell your crew that the ritual is off. Say you heard from your prophet or whoever that the conditions aren't right, or that you changed your mind. Whatever you have to tell them, you give us the magpie egg, and we'll do the rest. It'll be our problem. "And then what? I just go back to my life? Go back home to Mom and Dad?" I said, "We'll make you a deal. You call off this madness, and we'll make sure your dad never hurts you or Gracie. How about that?" "How?" "I know we don't look scary to you, but we can be scary when we want to be." "My dad isn't scared of anybody." "Bass, I am guaranteeing you that he'll never touch her, one way or the other." "You'd have to kill him." I shrugged. "If we fail, you can always get back at us later. You know where we all live, and you can cast hexes. Maybe make us all tiny and chase us around with your motorcycle." "Is there an option 3? Amy said, "Option 3 is you complete the ritual. Dark seeds are planted that will sprout and, over time, blot out all light from the sky. You'll live a long life, and maybe Gracie will too, during which you'll watch the whole world grow steadily colder and darker, and you won't even notice, because by then you'll be so corrupted that you'll be seeing it through inhuman eyes." Bass sighed. "I don't know if I can stop this thing even if I wanted to. The rest of the guys are coming. They've got the skins. This group, this ritual, it's all they have. If I drop out, they'll just do it without me. They'll feed the magpie, or the magpie will make sure it gets fed, one way or the other." John said, "Again, leave that to us. Whatever the magpie is, if it comes, it comes. We'll deal with it. This is what we do. Being a teenager means feeling like you're alone. Getting older means realizing you never were. Even if the help you get isn't remotely what you asked for," I added. "Sometimes you're really hungry and the only thing open is a gas station. But, personally, I think if you stay out of it, the egg will open and nothing will be there. Just a stuffed bird, whatever. I have it on good authority that without you, none of this is anything. All this insanity, this system or spell or whatever they're collectively calling Zarkrax. It's always been about clearing a path for you. These 10 nerds aren't anything. This ritual takes 1 billion nerds to complete. This is about a movement that will grow to that size a century down the line, and that movement starts with you. Without you, I really think it all just fizzles out." "Why, though?" asked Bass, suddenly sounding very young. "Why me?" Amy said, "I don't know if anybody is born a monster, but some people are born with a potential monster inside them. It's not fair. Nothing is fair. But you play the cards you're dealt. I have chronic back pain. You have the soul of a tyrant." John said, "The good news is you tame that monster and you can put it to work for you. Achieve great things." Bass scoffed. "What, like become a self-help guru?" "Yeah, if you want. All we know is that there are certain people who stand out for whatever reason. The crowd adopts their vibe. People naturally want to imitate it. It's like a superpower. You're probably not going to save the world, but you can save individual people's worlds, and that's still pretty sweet." Bass wiped sweat from his face using a t-shirt that was still soaked from the rain. "They'll be here soon. They're gonna cut the fence right here. I said, we know. And they have guns. Serious guns. They've been told from the start this is gonna come down to some big Scarface standoff. We know that too. I'm saying that if I try to back out, if I try to ruin this for them, I don't know what they're gonna do. They may just start shooting. Think about it, man. There are deaths we can be tied to. Cops are everywhere. These guys, their lives are over. It's jail or worse. They've got nothing to lose. I don't even know what I'd say to them. Aren't you their boss? The founder or whatever? Won't they do what you say? No. They've been around a while. They just decided I was their chosen one after I joined. But you know what crazy people are like. They flip on you like a switch. Again, leave that to us, said John, who once got a casserole recipe so wrong that his kitchen exploded. And trust me, the legal consequences really are the least of everyone's problems. How do you think they're still walking around free? Well, you're not gonna fix this by giving them all weed, I can tell you that. They're already tripping. I said, do you mean metaphorically, or? It's part of the ritual. They have this mushroom tea they make. They all took it around 9:30, figuring they'd peak right when it all goes down after midnight. I skipped it tonight, but they don't know that. John said, hell, why didn't you say so? They're going to trip in the middle of a stinking facility full of humming machines and huge pipes with the promise of some kind of monster coming their way? No wonder they're willing to let this thing eat their faces off. It's worse than that. They think they have to cut off their faces and give them to the magpie when it comes out, like a first feeding. They're ready to do it, man. Or they think they are. John seemed visibly relieved, for reasons I could not begin to comprehend. Are you saying there's a way to offset the effects of the drug? Asked Amy. An antidote or something? Not a literal antidote, said John. But if you're asking me how to manipulate the vibe of a small crowd of tripping weirdos, well, that's my specialty. I said, oh God. Now, the big problem with my plan, said John, clearly about to ignore all the actual big problems, is I assume the Zarkrax Club will freak out if they see any of us, right? They know we've been working against you, and they'll think we've turned you to our side. The only one of us whose face they haven't seen is... Before John could finish, Joy said, yes. She had appeared 6 inches away from me at some point, thrusting her fists into the air. It all comes down to Joy. Suck it, bozos. We all hung back from a safe distance and watched as the samurai arrived. They crouch-walked up to the fence, plainly visible in the moonlight, then struggled badly to hack through the chain link with a pair of small wire cutters that apparently were not up to the task. At least one guy seemed to injure himself badly in the attempt. Eventually, they all made it inside, hauling gear that included several rifle cases and 3 black trash bags that sagged as if containing wads of wet laundry. John watched the last of them fumble through the fence and shook his head. Tyler would have never let this happen. They all headed off into the darkness, in the direction of the 3 clarifier pools and the dead half of the treatment plant. Amy said, those trash bags, are they... The skins, yeah, said Bass. They've started gathering some flies, too. Oh, God. The last guy through had a black wooden box. That's the egg. I said, all right, we're going to go set up. You guys got this? Joy said, you can't think we are the weak link in the operation. She turned to Bass. Let's go save the day, cowboy.